All right. How we doing, guys? This is Hack Nation Live. I'm your host, Aaron Bennett. How you guys all doing tonight? Been a little bit of a long day for me. We had a fire here at the shop, and it was quite the effort to not lose everything. Fire department, there's probably 8 different fire trucks here trying to help put it out, and we were doing all our efforts, moving trucks out of the way as fast as we can. This place is drier than a pop knot. It hasn't rained in months, and we don't know exactly what started the fire. Could have been a cigarette, could have been anything. The wind's blowing really hard. I think every single person that works here smokes, so that doesn't help everything. So not really sure. Almost decided not to come do this. I'm so beat. I really just want to go home, but here's what it is. Here we are. Let's go ahead and get her done. Do you have any used running 2WSs? The answer to that is no. I refuse to deal in the world of used engines. People call me about used engines all the time. But we just don't mess with them because you get all the negative connotations of it being your engine, and you can't control, what kind of experience the guy's going to have with that. I mean, some things are force majeure and you can't control them anyway, but you certainly can control a new engine more than you can control a used engine you don't know anything about. So we just don't get into buying and selling used engines. Where's my yellow piece of paper? Oh, there it is. Anyway, guys, the number to call the show, this is a call-in show. It's caller-centric. We try and let the callers drive the conversation. The number to call in is 573-422-4225. That's 573-422-4225. Anyhow, if you guys are watching on TikTok, it is a little better experience to go over to Facebook, YouTube, watch it over there. Yeah, fire was blazing on every side of us. There was a few tense moments. We evacuated all the women and children and whatever else, and it didn't take long, and we had to start wearing gas masks. Fortunately, I have lots of gas masks here, for all the painting and coating that we do. So everybody's able to put a mask on, and we fought fire for 4 or 5 hours and finally got it under control with 0 property damage. One truck did catch fire. Tires caught fire, but that one is an old abandoned truck that was here when we moved here. It's been here for probably 20 years. So that's the only damage. And of course, nobody cares about that thing, including whoever owned it last. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been sitting here for 20 years. Anyhow, I am pretty beat, guys, but we do have one caller. Let's go ahead and see what he's got going on. Might be having a difficulty here. The gals took the phone I used to hook up to the Roadcaster. I want to make sure it's hooked up. It says it's connected. We should be able to take a call. Let's go ahead and see how that works out. Make sure the phone lines are working. Then we'll get right back into it. Hello, you're on the air there.
Hey, how you doing? You talking about used engines. I was thinking about repowering my Peterbilt. It's got an IS6 in it, and I haven't done anything with cats, don't know anything about them. And I was actually looking before you said all that to buy a used engine with the purpose of rebuilding it before I actually put it to work. I want to get your thoughts on that. And I was thinking about going with a Macert engine, but I'm finding out there's a bunch of different variants of them. What do you recommend to start off with? BXS, MXS, etc.
Okay, so they're all the same as far as their performance and specs and all that. Your BXS, MXS, NXS, the SDP, I think shouldn't even be considered in that category. That is a royal turd. But long story short, to answer your question there, you got to look at it from a builder's point of view, especially with one with a reputation like I've managed to garner in our industry. The last thing I want to do is get involved in used engines that I have no quality control over, right? And if a guy's, here's the kind of the sad part of it is, if a guy is after a used engine, it's probably, he's in a situation where that's all he can afford. And so he's most likely going to be the guy that screams and yells the loudest if he has a problem. And that's the unfortunate, I'm not faulting him for that, but that's the unfortunate thing you got to look at from like my side. He is the guy that's the most down and out on his luck is going to expect the most for his buck. And you're selling a used engine to a guy, and long story short, next thing you know, everybody's going to say that you're this piece of shit and you don't do good engines or whatever it might be, and you're a shyster and whatever else. So I'm just better off steering clear from that, instead of trying to help out everybody on planet Earth, you end up getting shit on by everybody, so that's kind of my angle. The other thing is if you're in your situation and you go out and buy, Facebook Marketplace, you find a cat engine, good runner, got taken out. How many times have you heard a guy that had good luck with a story like that? It's almost never, right? They're always coming out of the truck for some reason. So, I'm not just saying this from a builder's point of view, just really, how many stories do you know where guys had good luck buying an engine that, is that type of engine, good takeout? The only type of guys that I hear that have any kind of good luck with that is, some guys go through reputable places like Worldwide Diesel, buying, and I've done it, right? For guys that really needed something like that, I went to Worldwide and they've helped me find a good runner. But we know in advance we're taking a big risk, and and they're not mincing two ways about it. Their warranty's like 90 days. It's kind of like a taillight warranty, and I'm surprised they give that much, to be honest with you. But they do take the extra time to kind of look them over. But just buying one off Facebook Marketplace, man, you're going to get what you deserve, type, so to speak. I'd say that with zero animosity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was actually thinking like a Vanderhags, or I found Boots and Hanks or something like that. That's got some engines out there. I was thinking just to buy it and have it sitting on the floor. If my ISX is kind of out the door right now, if it went out completely, I'd just throw it in used like that. But my intentions are, while the cat's sitting on the ground, to start rebuilding it, and then once it's ready, to put it in the truck. So
sure, that's kind of a different angle there. I can kind of see that angle. If you have the ability to rebuild it yourself and this and that, and you just want to buy an engine and start tinkering on it and get it ready for when you lose an engine, I certainly can see that. The problem is
well, I mean, I
go ahead.
I don't. I mean, I'm not a builder at all. So, but for me, I'd rather have the engine sitting there to get ready to, take it to someone like you or whoever to build it up for me. While I still run the ISX.
Right, but yeah, sure. I mean, guys do that with us all the time. Guys do that with us all the time. They bring us engines and have us build them, and and continue to run what they have. The guys that are in that position always fare better than anybody else, because they're not up against the wall while they're waiting on their engine. They're going backwards and paying insurance and all these other things for sure. Whether renting a truck or whatever it might be, just so they don't lose whatever dedicated run they have. And so, but as far as used engines go, even if that's not how you meant it, that's how I would answer that. If that is how you meant it, is, the Facebook Marketplace type engine, I'm not saying you can't find a person that out there that's being truthful, but still, it sits around for X amount of time and this and that. Like, the only people I could think of that I'd buy a used engine from would be Worldwide, because they at least take the time to make sure it's not going to fucking blow up as it's leaving the parking lot, at least to the best of their ability. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
for your case, I mean, if I had a choice and I was just picking out an engine, the BXS is probably my favorite engine. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the MXS and the NXS either. They're great engines all around.
Okay, BXS. Alrighty. Okay, that's all I have for you. I appreciate your time.
All right, brother man, you have a good night.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Whew. All right. What's your take on the N14 Select tune to 600 horsepower? Well, there's no tune out there for them to tune them to 600 horsepower. So that means that somebody's getting in there and just doing all kinds of shit zoo with your timing and whatnot. Really, in my idea of a good tuned, so we sell it here, we sell a horsepower N14, but when we say horsepower N14, we're shooting for like 550, maybe 565, somewhere in there. And we're getting those power gains, not in the ECM. We're getting those power gains, we're going to go with a 25 CPL, which is going to be your most powerful CPL you can make. And then you bolt on performance stuff, get the air moving, burn all the fuel, use the thermodynamics to the full extent that you can. You're using all of your thermals, all of your energy transfer is going straight to the flywheel, and that's my idea of how you take an N14 and you still get 1,000,000 miles out of it, and you're getting all the horsepower that you could possibly get. If somebody's selling you a bill of goods, telling you, yeah, I'll build you a 600, N14, and he's fucking with your timing and all that, I'm not saying it can't be done, but good luck. We'll see you soon. You know what I mean? What happened to the YouTube? It says we're streaming live on YouTube, so I don't know, brother. It says we're streaming on YouTube. But anyhow, let's see here. Longevity build. Yeah, I'm gonna make videos tomorrow. Kind of running down. We have a longevity build done, and we have an elite build done. They're both done. We're actually just getting ready to make a video about it. I was pretty excited about it because I'm gonna kind of share. It's kind of fun to take people on the adventure of, what we've actually done to them. And I was going into the room with the ECM to put the ECM on. It's like the finishing touch, and somebody walks in and says, "We have a huge fire outside." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" So I didn't get around to making the videos. I did manage to make a shop update video. I'd promised like 10 different people we'd do a shop update video. So even though we just got done putting out the fires, like 10 minutes to show time here, and I ran around and made a quick shop update video. Kind of dead on my feet while I was doing it, but kind of is what it is. It's pretty cool we've sold some of those longevity builds where we're just, and if you don't know, that's our idea now of a stock build. So let's say you have a stock 550, we're going into a stock build. Now we can, with ceramic coated pistons, Teflon rods and mains, and ceramic manifold, ceramic turbo, and we're getting a lot better thermal transfer on those. We have a few people running them around. They're seeing way lower EGTs. It seems to be running way more efficient, better fuel mileage. So I think we're certainly going in the right direction here. We already know that it extends longevity. We've already been able to do proof positive of that. We've made some videos showing some of that stuff. We have a meeting tomorrow with the guys that make all these coatings. We're going to nail down. We think we've nailed down some. We've had some coatings that went through some pretty extensive testing in dynos. So we may tweak some of our coatings here over the next couple of weeks. We're really getting it dialed in, man. Really getting it dialed in. So I'm not saying the coatings that we use were inferior, but there's certainly good coatings that we're using. But there's some of them that out there we're going to be looking at tomorrow from the same place we get them from that have went through a lot more dyno testing. And so we're constantly tweaking it, but we think we got it down. We got some pretty good products out there. Kind of funny. I just got a call today on all those prototype turbos that we practically gave away just a little bit ago. If you guys remember, I made a video and like, these are none of the turbos we're going to use. And, we had an outside company make all those for us. And we got some feedback on some of them today. And guys like, yeah, they work great, but all the freaking coating came off of it. Like, holy shit, really? So I'm happy to say that we haven't had that kind of feedback on our own. We have quite a few of them out there running right now, and coatings have stayed intact and showing a lot better EGTs. So pretty cool. But anyway, guys, no callers, which I'm okay with that. I like getting up in the comments section. Have you ever put a 78 millimeter turbo on a Packard? The Packard has a VGT turbo, so No, but we do have upgraded turbos for those coming out here in just a few weeks, and manifolds as well. We have manifolds for those right now. We don't have an in-house brand. We do have an in-house manifold coming really, really soon. I'm pretty excited about that. Our in-house manifold is going to be more closer to, it's going to be way more stock compatible. Something I hate about the performance manifolds. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but this is something I just can't stand. You get these performance manifolds like PDI, and I'm not trying to dog on them, but if you use their shit, you kind of have to use their turbo. It's this giant fucking pain in the ass. Well, if you break down, halfway across the country and you just need to go run into Cat or Peterbilt and grab a turbo, you're kind of shit out of luck. So we're purposely making sure we're not making it obsolete for your options to just go get anything to put on these manifolds. Of course, we're hoping for them to be optimal with the ceramic coated turbos that we're selling. But if you have a turbo issue, we want you to be able to just go anywhere and put a turbo on. This whole bullshit where these guys change these things where you can't use anything but their turbo. Man, that's not being considerate of the end user at all, in my opinion. Anyway, what's the number to call in? It's 573-422-4225. We do have a few callers. We're going to jump over to them here in just a second. If you want to hang on. Some guys are asking some pretty long questions in the comments. Call in if you want, brother. Let's get everybody a chance to hear your questions. You think PDI did that on purpose for future sales? Yeah. Sure seems like it. I mean, there's an argument there to be made that PDI, they use a way bigger bolt, for the turbo, which is a giant pain in the ass because you see everybody and their mom, me included, take a OEM turbo gasket and you're over there with a drill or with a reamer just to get the damn thing to work. And that's not good, right? That's not good. They're layered metal and you're really tearing the shit out of them when you do that. But you're kind of stuck doing that, right? Unless you're going to wait a week or however long it takes to get a PDI gasket and whatever else. And so I think they wanted to beef it up. I'm not trying to totally say, oh, they're just fucked up and they wanted to make sure everybody had to use their turbo. But, you're not seeing turbos fall off the side of engines, even performance turbos that don't have these massive, half-inch bolts. So, it may have been a good thought when they were doing it, but it's really not needed. Pretty obvious it's not needed, and it sure is a pain in the ass for the end user for sure. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and take a caller here. We don't want them to get too far out. You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Hey, good evening, Aaron. Just had a question or two for you here.
Shoot.
Hey, so what's your thoughts on putting an exhaust brake on a C15 to work together with the engine brake? Would that kind of make it work better, or would they cancel each other out, or what?
I always wondered the same thing when I was running the Alaska Haul Road, because I always thought, man, it'd be so nice to have more braking power. And everybody always told me, so I'm just sharing my real world experience. Everybody said, oh, they cancel each other out. They cancel each other out. You can't do that. But since we have started rebuilding engines and we come across so many different trucks, we've came across 4 or 5 different specialty trucks that have both, and they work in tandem and they fucking kick ass. So I don't know where people get that from. I've actually driven trucks that have both of them on it, and they seem to work in tandem just fine. So I don't know where people get that from. I've always heard that. I always wanted to get one. I wanted to get like a blue ox or whatever and put it on my truck when we were running the haul road. And I never did because everybody told me it wouldn't work. But I have ran trucks that have them when I was out breaking them in. So I'm going to say they will work because I've literally driven trucks where they worked.
Yeah, it'd be pretty nice going down the mountains with something like that.
Well, I mean, what kind of engine are we talking about?
Let's take a C15 with single turbo, for example.
Well, I mean, if you're so you can get your C15, you know, if you're talking like a 6NZ, don't die on me there, brother. If you're talking about
No, I'm still here.
if you're talking about you got a lot of background noise. If you're talking about like a C15, if you're talking about like a C15 6NZ, sorry, you know, all that background noise kind of throwing me off. Then you should be able to hold yourself back, you know, with minimal amount of brake. Let's say, and I could tell you this unequivocally as being true because I owned 3 6NZs and I'd run them up the haul road and I had all my drivers would and whatnot. And we could be loaded as heavy as 100 and, you know, 105, 106 hauling pipe, 96, 98 was pretty average. So let's say 98, you know, coming off the Beaver slide or something like that, and you're on a 12% grade, you know, and it's like 3 miles long. You can hold her back with minimal amount of brake. I can't imagine the situation where a 6NZ isn't going to hold back for you, right? The only way you could have a 6NZ that's not holding you back properly is if one, you'd need to rebuild the jakes. That usually makes a big difference. You know, it's like it's under $200 usually, or you know, if you're not a high volume guy, maybe $220. It's about an hour of your time. Rebuild your jake heads. Then the second thing is if you're not getting good jakes, you need some kind of turbo that can give you lots of good back pressure. You know, a good 32.
Well, everybody always wants more, right?
No, sure. I'm not saying that, but man, you're talking a really big endeavor here to go and do all this shit to put on an exhaust brake when really you probably just need to rebuild the jake heads. You get that? That's all I'm trying to say, right?
Okay, yeah. So, but in theory now, do you think they would cancel each other out because the one makes back pressure against the whole exhaust system, and the other one is the turbos are trying to spool up. So
I don't know for sure. All I can tell you is I have driven trucks with both. Right, there were heavy haul specialty trucks, and there's been 3 of them come through here. So,
it'd be interesting to drive something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how that combination works. I just know that I've driven trucks where it works.
Okay. I had one other question for you. I've been listening to a few of your previous shows here, and you've mentioned that the PDI tunes from back in the day would tear up people's engines. Could you elaborate a little on how to do that, or what was wrong with them?
They were, and I don't want to spend every show shitting on PDI, but even PDI will admit now that their tunes, you know, that they ended up getting ultimately slapped in the PP really hard by the EPA for doing all those tunes all that time. They were single-handedly responsible for blowing up hundreds of trucks across the United States. And I don't feel one bit bad about saying that because it's absolutely true. And I think that they would acknowledge that at this point. Their stuff was tearing stuff apart. So they would just tune them so far that they would, you know, they're burning on the exhaust stroke really bad and they're just tearing them apart. But, you know, they have a tuner out now.
Okay.
They have a tuner out now that does a lot better job. It hasn't been out that long. It does do a lot better job than the tunes they used to just hand out. And they are, you know, emissions compliant tunes, and they work really well. But, you know, they've been out for a while now, and I'm starting to see a lot of guys coming in that are having problems from those tuners tearing up their trucks. So, and, you know, again, this isn't me being anti PDI. It's me telling you what I've been seeing. And I have 12 of those or 10 of those tuners here, and I've never sold one. I've tried giving them back multiple times. They won't take them back. They're all new in the box. If anybody wants to buy one, hit me up. I'll sell you one half price. But yeah, I want you to know in advance, I'm not recommending you put it on your truck. I bought a bunch of them from them. We went and looked at them all, and we installed one, and we had Canadians hook up to it, look at it all with us, and they're like, don't do it. Don't warranty trucks with this on it. So I decided not to ever sell them. They've been sitting in here for almost a year. I have thousands of dollars worth of tuners here, and I refuse to sell them as a product that I'm promoting. I'm glad I never did, because we're starting to see guys come in having problems from those PDI tuners. They're just too fucking hot. That's all there is to it. They're putting out 700 plus horsepower. And they're just too hot. The engines can't handle it, and that's my opinion on their tuner. Not trying to shit on them. Those tuners.
And that's what you think was going on back in the day. They were just too hot.
Oh, I don't think. I know for a fact that's what's going on back in the day. I watched my own brothers destroy engine after engine with their tunes.
Oh, okay.
But
I was just curious.
I think that the tuners that they have now are dialed in way better than what they were doing before, but they're still wrecking trucks. And I think that we're gonna, over the next year or two, we're gonna see more and more trucks showing the effects of using their tuners. They're really hard on them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all I had for you this evening. So.
All right, brother.
I'll let you get back to it.
Have a good night.
All right. See you.
Somebody asked in the comments there, what do I think about the hydrostatic retarder, which is your oil retarder, as an extra braking mechanism? I owned 3 trucks. Can't even do a 3. I owned 3 trucks with the oil retarder, and I can tell you unequivocally, nothing compares to that. The only thing that could probably come close to an oil retarder as far as for safety and being able to slow the truck down, no matter what kind of grade you're on, no matter what kind of weight you're pulling, nothing comes close. The only thing that could even come close to comparing is almost an identical mechanism called a electromagnetic retarder. They work almost identically. Your electromagnetic retarders are really badass as well. The best thing about those guys is, like when we were running up in Alaska and we had those retarders, when you're coming down a hill and you're loaded heavy as shit, when you got a 3, 4, 5 mile hill, you're 98, 113, 14% grade, you can ride, you can go down that hill 45 plus miles an hour. If you got a retarder, Jake's and retarder running, you got to watch the retarder, make sure it doesn't get hot. But the best thing about it is if you slow down, or if you slow down and you have so much holding back that you start to slip, and start to break loose. It's called breaking loose. If you start to break loose, the retarder, it relies on the static motion of cutting. Not, what am I trying to say? It relies on friction. That's what I'm trying to say. It relies on friction to hold the engine back. And as soon as there's not anything resisting the wheels, it stops doing anything. So you can never break loose on a mountain because you're jaking too hard from a retarder. So if you shut your jakes off, it will immediately grab itself back up and start to slow the truck back down again. That was the greatest thing about those oil retarders. And the same thing with electromagnetic retarders. They can sense when the resistance starts to become so little. That's what I'm trying to say, is when this wheel slows down so much where it's to the point where it's going to break loose, there's no resistance left on the flywheel. Same thing with electromagnetic retarders. So in a icy environment, nothing compares to them, because you'll never break loose and just start turning into a bobsled going down the mountain. I don't know if you guys have ever ran jakes going down a mountain and it's pure ice. Your jakes will make you break loose and you'll turn into a bobsled. And it's like one of the worst feelings ever. Ask me how I know. I have left several shit stains on my seat from my truck breaking loose and gaining 20 miles an hour in a split second because my jakes have locked up the tires. Well, retarders don't do that, whether they be oil or electromagnetic. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in those drivetrain braking mechanisms. Have I ever owned an electromagnetic retarder? No, but Alaska, they're really prevalent. All of your like waste management guys, buses, school buses and stuff, they all have them. So, Alaskans are really familiar with electromagnetic retarders. Some guys have them on their big rigs, not a lot, but some guys do. A lot of guys have the oil retarders just because they're tried and true and way more available and whatnot. So, as far as have I ever been around electromagnetic retarders, a hell of a lot, man. Electromagnetic retarder will, without any additional braking power, hold 80,000 pounds back on a 9% grade, I believe is what it is, without any additional braking power at all. So they're really powerful in their own right. I think an oil retarder will do pretty similar. If you're working a little bit of your squaw handle, maybe 10 pounds on the squaw handle, and letting your jakes run and using a retarder, man, you could be loaded heavy as shit and run down 14, 15% grade, maybe it's 16, 14, kind of doing this number. You can run down that thing 45, 50 miles an hour and not have her break loose and run off on you. It's pretty badass, man. If you guys have never done any trucking like that, when you're running on snow and ice like that, you really don't. The biggest mistake a guy can make is just try to fight it too hard. Next thing you know, you've turned into a bobsled. So any of those tools that are at your disposal, well, you can actually go faster. It makes you safer. So I always like to describe running on those kind of conditions as you're really driving a controlled wreck, because you're not really in control. You're just controlling the wreck is what you're doing. And that's the safest way to do. The scariest guys are the guys that are shitting their pants and trying so hard to hold it back. And next thing you know, they're going down the hill sideways and turning backwards and a big old wad of mess in the bottom, So it's really the guys that let it hang out a little bit and just kind of let it go and control the wreck as they go down. They're the safer guys. Took me a while to get up the courage to be like everybody else. But once I started driving like that, I was way safer. I was way safer than I was when I first started out. And I'm just like trying to go down the mountain and fifth direct and trying to hold it back. And I kept breaking loose and, and I'm grabbing 3 gears and, I don't miss that times. But anyway, back to the callers, guys. Let's do this. Hello, you're on the air. What can we do for you?
Hey, Aaron, I had a couple quick questions for you. Are you doing the elite builds on the N14s?
Any platform, yep.
Oh, awesome. So I was listening. I was on hold for a little bit. Are you selling the PDI tuner for the X15 at half price?
Yeah, I will sell the PDI tuner to anyone that wants one until all 10 are gone for basically half price. Sure. I don't care. They won't take them back. I've tried giving them back a dozen times. As long as you and I both agree that I wasn't encouraging you to buy one.
Well, I've got a 24 X15. It's the 2050 torque driveline. Was that your concern?
No,
about guys tearing things up, or
no, not there. I'm not concerned about tearing the drivetrain up. And here's the thing, guys. Of all the bolt-on tuning apparatuses on the market, PDI's got the best. I do believe that. Okay, so if I was gonna, should I go out and get diesel-free crap and hang it all? No, their stuff is garbage, right? If you were gonna ask me, what's the best bolt-on mod for tuning my truck I could possibly do? I would have to say PDI's probably got the best one, right? But where I'm, now that they've been out for a while, we're starting to see guys coming in where their engines are messed up from having too much horsepower, just like you would. You see, if you had some guy had a shit hot tune, right? So, what I'm saying is I don't want it to be any part of them, because I think that given enough time, give it another year or two, guys are going to start to, it's going to take your engine down to a couple 100,000 mile engine. Is it going to be a real pleasure to drive while it lasts? Yes. They do work really well. And I think they're probably one of the better options out there if you're trying to go that route. But I guarantee you there's better options in general. Like when we build an engine here, and I'm not trying to compare me to PDI, I'm just trying to be, as honest as I can be about it. we build engines that we expect to get 1,000,000 miles, and we build them as high as horsepower as we possibly can. But there's a stopping point there, and they go over that. They go quite a bit over it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and I agree with you. I just thought with, before I want to put an N14 in this truck again. I thought maybe I'd have a little fun with the X15 before we do it. So, and I can call you tomorrow too. Do you guys have a market? Say I came down there, we swapped out the N14 for the X15. Do you have a market down there for anybody that would want this X15, or is it something I need to bring home with me?
No, so absolutely. So like I just got off the phone with a guy earlier today, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna buy a 2020 or 2021 or 2019 truck, and I'm only buying it to have you put an engine in it." And he's like, "I'm looking at one with a Cummins and one with a PACCAR, and they both have about 300,000 miles on them." And I said, "Well, unequivocally buy the one with the Cummins, because if you bring it here and we can show a video of it running and this and that, we can get rid of that Cummins. And in the street value of that Cummins with 300,000 miles, is somewhere between 12 and 14,000. That's your asking price where you're actually going to get rid of it. You're not going to sit on it for the next 10 years. Somebody will buy it for that. As long as we can we can show that it runs good, doesn't have a bunch of blow by, not pushing coolant and this and that. You can get $12,000-$14,000 for them, right? And we have no problem if the guy's doing work with us here. Yeah, we'll help you sell. We'll make a video. We do it all the time, right? Well, we just don't want to, we don't want someone coming in here and like a guy brought a PACCAR in here and it was pushing coolant out really bad, and it had been rebuilt 500 miles before he brought it here, but they fucked something up, and he wanted me to help him sell it, and I was like, okay, but I'm going to tell everybody, and it never sold. It never did sell. I'm actually rebuilding it right now. We took the head off of it, and what we figured out they had done is they had busted a head bolt, and he never told me this. This is why we don't like to fuck around, right? He never told me he'd busted a head bolt, and you can tell they busted it because they'd cut the head off of it, right? So that's why it was actually having coolant problems, because they busted one head bolt. They never could get it out. So they just put a new head on over that old head bolt and bolted everything down. I mean, what the fuck, right? So but we just make sure, if we're selling a used engine, everybody knows what it is, and we're not just putting our name on it or anything. It's just, there's lots of guys that need an engine like that. So, and who's to say it doesn't get another 700,000 miles for them,
Sure.
But it, as far as the elite build, that, to kind of put it into perspective, we have 40 engines at the machine shop right now, because we're almost done with the end frames. We've got 7 left. So I'm preemptively having 40 blocks done. We want to be in a position where when guys call, we already have an engine ready to go. That's something I've always dreamed of being able to do, but we've been building lots of engines preemptively for like the last 2 months, and every one of them is sold before we've got it done. So I've never, ever had an engine ready to go to sell before somebody bought it. And so it's going to be like a dream come true for me. I've always wanted to have a guy call and be like, yeah, man, I already got what you need. Right. So we're going to build an elite build, pretty much of every one of them, a performance build and a longevity build of pretty much every platform, an 870, 871, a 22, 2350, an X15, your ACERT, your 6NZ, and your 5EK, and your N14. I sent in 2 N14s, I believe. Maybe I sent in 3. And your 14-liter Detroits, and we send in 2 12.7s. So we have always done a really awesome 14-liter build, but again, our 14-liter build is 600 horsepower. Our N14 build, like the highest we're ever going to go for you is about 575. That's as high as we're going to go, because we want you to get 1,000,000 miles, right? Could we go higher?
Oh, absolutely.
But there's some platforms where we go way higher. On the X15, we're building an X15 right now that we're quite certain is going to outperform our 640 build, which, by the way, we'd had our 640 build dynoed recently. It put out 688 to the flywheel.
Was that the one that Mark did?
Yep.
That did like 570 something to the ground. Okay, yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yep. So it's quite a bit more.
So do you worry about?
Go ahead.
Do you worry about the block spreading on the N14s, or is that really a thing? I know guys used to say that you couldn't put any power to 14 because the blocks would fret, crack, whatever.
And all the time, and all the N14s I've messed with, which is pretty much around the clock, we never don't have an N14 in here. I've only ever seen one that had fretting on the caps, and I'm quite certain it was installation error. So I'm not going to say it's not possible. I've heard the rumor a dozen times myself, but I've never seen it. And we build a lot of 25 CPL. In fact, we change all the time. We're changing black tops into 25 red tops, and changing all the timing and everything, and hammering the piss out of them. Putting 575 plus to them. And I've never had anybody come back with an N14 that we built and have a problem with it. I worry more about the N14s beating. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
no, go ahead.
I worry more about the N14s beating the shit out of themselves with the cylinder heads. I mean, that's where you see all the problems. Is the metal gasket design's kind of a shit design. They just sink into themselves and they kick the shit out of themselves.
This last thing before I'll let you go. There's a guy. I live in rural Iowa. We have a guy here, farmer, 95 Freightliner N14 350 Cummins, 2.2 million. Never touched it. That thing has never been open.
Wow. Yeah.
I'd like to put him in touch with you. He's owned the truck since '98.
What engine was it again?
N14.
Oh, okay.
Set at 350.
I mean,
yeah,
it is not uncommon. We see the N14. I mean, that's uncommon, but it's not uncommon for us to see N14s with well over $1 million, $1.3 million, $1.2 million, $1.4 million. We see that quite a bit. There's no doubt about that engine's ability to do that. They're without exception, they got to go to a machine shop though. They get the shit kicked out of them really bad. When you have an N14 with 1 million miles on it, it's almost you have to send it to the machine shop. You almost have no choice.
Right. Well, hey, man, I'll let you go. Thanks, Aaron.
Yep. Have a good night, man. Thanks for the call.
You too. See ya.
Oh, man, I almost didn't do this show, guys. I am so pooped from fighting that fire. Yeah, a lot of adrenaline. Feel like I fought 7 dudes for an hour. Well, I bought a 6MZ with 800 Marine cam and 550 injectors. What can I do to complement it or make it reliable? First thing, I would put the stock camshaft back in it personally. Whew. Ugh. All right, we'll go back to the phone lines here. Chat's going all over the place. I can't really keep up with it. Nothing really directly towards me anyway, so I do appreciate everybody that's in the comments trying to help other people with their questions. This is not the type of show where it is Aaron-centric. I do not care about that. I love the fact that so many guys, and I see a lot of knowledgeable guys in here come in and help out. I have a media guy now that's setting up people to come on the show. He has reached out to about a half dozen people so far. He's lining them all up. So from next show on, probably for the next couple of months, we're going to have a guest every single show. So that'll be exciting. We'll announce everybody in advance as we go. So signs your harmonic balancer needs replacing. There's not a lot of signs, unfortunately. So it's better to just go with a rule of thumb on those, really. And most manufacturers recommend around 700,000 to just replace it. man, I'd have to agree with that because just like Diesel Beast said, your signs are a broken crankshaft. You goddamn right. So that's the unfortunate thing, man. Your signs of a bad dampener are a broken crankshaft. So you're really better off following a rule of thumb of around 600,000 to just change it. So back to the broken crankshaft. I mean, he's right. He's right. So back to the callers here. You're going to be on the air. You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Good, man. What can we do?
Well, hey, man, that's crazy about that fire. I know how you feel. That's crazy. It's hard to control out of control fire. I have an electrical issue that I had some questions about. I know it's an electrical issue because the lights are flashing on my dash. I'm at a no crank, no start. And I follow Mr. Charlie, and he mentions to not throw parts to it. And so today I just looked at tracing all the wires and getting familiar with all the wiring diagram and looking at grounds and things like that, and found a handful of questionable scuffs and scrapes on different. Is that some of the things that are culprits for possibly down in a SAM chassis or an ECM?
So the least likely scenario is your ECM. But you haven't given really enough information for me to even try and guess along with you. But I will warn you in advance that electrical problems for any mechanic pretty much are going to be one of the most challenging things and almost impossible in this format. The guy's really got to be there. My brother-in-law is probably the best electrical guy I've ever seen. What state are you in?
Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I know some good guys that do electrical, but not in Florida. I don't. So let's try real quick, though.
Yeah.
Hit at me real quick. What kind of truck is it, and what is it doing exactly?
It's a 2008 Freightliner Cascadia with a Series 60 12.7 in it. I got it, put batteries to it. It cranked up. No blow by, mechanical. It looks good. And so each weekend as I come home, I was cranking it up and kind of charging up the batteries and things like that. I had it on 3 batteries just because that was what I had at the time. I ended up feeling like I was doing it a good service by adding that force where it is parallel. Cranked it up, kind of equalized them, or let it idle a little bit, and it wouldn't shut off by the key. And so I kind of scratched my head. It was just idling. Like, what do I do now? I called a buddy of mine. He said, pull the ECM fuse or disconnect the batteries. I didn't know exactly where the fuse was, so I just disconnected the batteries. It continued to run for a couple minutes and then kind of fizzled out. I kind of left it at that for a little bit, or a week or so. A week. Went back, had ended up finding a trickle charge from my batteries to trickle charge them all at the same time, just in the event that anything was off. Hooked everything back up, went to turn the key. There's a no crank, no start, and all the dash lights are going crazy. All the things that I've looked at is pointing towards the SAM chassis. Today, I actually disconnected the SAM chassis, unplugged everything, looked at all the wires, looked for scuffs.
Now hang on. You unplugged the SAM chassis and your problems went away? I mean, that should have been the obvious thing you should try. If you think it's a SAM chassis.
No, absolutely not. I unplugged the SAM chassis, disconnected it from the firewall, looked at it, cleaned it all up, put it back in, kind of, made sure to inspect the positive and negative.
When you say SAM chassis, are you talking about a trailer that you pull behind you? I'm assuming.
No, this is the SAM chassis module on the firewall that has all the electronics within it. It's got negative and positive on the engine's firewall side. It's got a ground at your foot kick panel. It's got a couple wiring harnesses up by the brake, and then it's got a couple wiring harnesses right above the or right beside the steering column as it comes in through the firewall.
Most of my leasers had Freightliners like you're talking about. Yeah, he's saying SAM chassis. I thought he was saying sand chassis. Like, why didn't you just unplug the sand chassis?
No, I'm sorry. No.
Anyway.
Yeah, a couple things that I've Googled that because of how the dash lights are going, they're saying, oh, SAM chassis, it either got water or there's some debris in there. And I didn't see that there was any kind of protrusion of water, things like that. Once I keyed that on and saw that it wasn't that, I ended up going down below, and it's a DDEX 6, so it's got the 120 pin plug on the ECM. There was oil, dirt, and grime in there, so I cleaned that up pretty good, plugged that back in. But for some reason, I'm kind of scratching my head. I didn't unplug the 30 pin on there, and within that pin diagram, it shows battery 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 and battery 2 and 4. And I Googled to see how it understands how it can understand if it's got 3 or 4 or 2 batteries. And it mentions that it's a voltage thing. And so it seemed like it cranked up just fine and ran with 3 batteries. And then I had my issues with the 4th batteries, or there could have been an underlying issue and it just allowed me to crank 3 or 4 times before it went into a limp mode, a no start condition because of some underlying faulty ground, something like that. I ended up pulling the ignition, and there's a little.
So here's the thing, man. I appreciate you going that far into depth, but this is going to require you doing a lot of elimination here. Like somebody just said in the comments, Sam said, put a meter on it and run continuity tests to the ground to see if he's getting good ground. Then, of course, do the same with the power. You might have a bad wire that looks good on the outside, but totally corroded inside. It needs to pull codes and follow the correct troubleshooting tree. I would definitely agree with that. Are you getting any codes?
No, as of now, there were a couple codes on the dash that I wasn't aware of. And now that the dash is just kind of flashing a whole bunch of stuff.
Another gentleman says, my PNBD has a relay that will go bad and the fuse can't be replaced. Mine was turning off while driving, and then it would turn on. So here's one of the problems here with you asking me this question is a lot of my leasers had Freightliners like you're talking about, and my brother-in-law would fight shit like this on them all the time. I remember 3 different times off the top of my head. Of course, it has to be in like January, February, where we're on the side of the road trying to get these things going as they just shut off. I owned 2 Freightliners, 3 Freightliners, but all of them were classics, and the wiring is just different on them. And even they're a freaking nightmare, but nothing like the one that, like the truck that you have. So I don't have a lot of experience with them. My brother-in-law does, because I was never working on leasers trucks like that. But in my experience, most of the time when you're having intermittent power like that, it's almost always a ground problem rather than a power problem. It's some ground somewhere is not getting connection, and it's causing it to short out and lose all the power.
So because it is an old truck, I was going around with my multimeter and checking my grounds off of my positive. And with my multimeter, I'm not sure if it's my multimeter or what's going on there, but it was slow to show me voltage. Will that dictate a kind of a crappy ground? Versus there's other places where I can hit and it'll give me amperage quick, whereas on certain places I kind of got to scratch to get the voltage to come up. Same with the test light.
That sounds like a ground, man. And You know,
So just wherever there's rust, pull it off, pull the nut off, and screw it back on, and just do that with every connection I got.
or you need to find somebody that's got better tooling than you and can do continuity on everything. That'd make way more sense, honestly. I mean, you got to weigh it out. Maybe you spend, you know, a couple $100 on tech that has tooling like that, or you spend 30 hours, and what's your time worth? You know, a lot of guys don't sit down and think, what's my time worth? You know, you maybe money ahead to have somebody do something like that for you. You know, if you don't have good tools for that, you know, like multimeter and whatever else it might be that a guy's going to run continuity with, you know, the tool that you just described, those are awesome. I think every owner operator should own one, but they can't really get you where you're trying to go. You know what I mean?
What, as far as a multimeter and a test light?
Well, that's not what you said you had.
That's what I was doing. A voltmeter, multimeter,
Oh, okay.
checking continuity, all the different places, making sure I had.
Okay.
I was having 12.4 everywhere.
Okay. I thought you were using a power probe.
Oh, well, I actually picked one up today just to kind of fool around with it because I didn't have one, and it was lighting up everywhere, but there were some places where I'd have to scratch a little bit to get the light to show up, and it was like, you know, rusty, not corroded, but you know, there's visible rust there.
You're just gonna have to do a shit ton of troubleshooting. But I would start with the ground.
And then right on. The last I guess two quick ones. Behind the ignition on the power side, I did see a little fray on the wire. Everywhere else I'm getting 12.4. There I'm getting 11. So I'm looking to splice the wire. Obviously, a solder would be the best, but I don't have a lot of space there. You know, so long as I'm getting 12, if I do switch that out with a little butt connector and keep an eye on it, is that something that's doable?
What you need to do is run a continuity test, my friend. And if you don't know how to do it properly, get someone to help you. You got troubleshooting in front of you. All right. I cannot,
and for sure on that continuity test,
I can't troubleshoot it from here. That's for sure.
I got you. Thank you, Mr. Aaron.
All right, brother, man.
Thank you for your time. Yes, sir.
We're going to go straight to the next call for you.
Hey, Aaron, I just talked to your office earlier today. I got a 6NZ. It's got 635,000 miles on it. It's starting to burn some antifreeze. Obviously got a head issue. I was just curious to what head you would recommend from you to put on it.
So every single person you buy a cylinder head from, except for ATL and what am I thinking of? What's the I can't remember the name of it.
PAI?
No, not PAI. PAI didn't have a cylinder head, actually. I can't remember the name of them. Anyway, my sons sell their stuff quite a bit, but long story short, ATL has some other head. I'm not, you know, it's not made. Pretty much everybody out there has a Jarrah head, and Jarrah head has become pretty much the standard across the board that everybody uses, and everybody's kind of accepted that is the best head on the market, whether it be Cummins, Cat, Detroit. Jarrah is going to be the way to go. You know, they just do much better than the OEM. You know, and it so it doesn't really matter who you buy it from, right? You know, you could buy one from Highway and Heavy Parts, you could buy one from pretty much anybody out there, right? And you're going to be getting the same head, and you know, the heads that
I just thought I would want the one that you got the.
Now that's so. Just so you know, the head that we sell, I haven't minced any words about it. The head that we sell, it might have hacknation stamped into it, but it's still a Jarrah head. I would never want to use a different head. You know, I always knew that I wanted to use a Jarrah head because they make the best ones, in my opinion. So all we've done with the Jarrah heads is we take the valves out of them and we put American-made Inconel intake and exhaust valves in them. But before we put them in, we have them coated with a Teflon type coating. And just so you know, that coating isn't for the face of the valve. We do coat the face of the valve because it looks really cool, but it's not for that. It's for the stem. So we're after the coating on the stem. It's a super slick oil shedding compound for the stem. Then we isotropic super finish the springs, get rid of all the surface tension, get rid of all the parasitic load, and then we Teflon coat the bearings in it. And we also have injectors coming out that will match all that. You know, they're going to be isotropic super finish as well. They'll go really good with those heads. But so we're still using the same head as everybody else. You know, we just have enhanced it dramatically. So, and that head's, you know, available on the website. You can just go get it, basically. And we have Cummins coming out in a week, I think it is. We're going to release the Cummins head that has the isotropic super finish and all the coatings on it. Pretty excited about it. But our head's no different than everybody else's. It just has, it's a stage 3 head out of the box. And before we do anything to it, it's a stage 3. So I call it the stage 3 plus head. Because it's stage 3 plus all the coatings and isotropic super finish that we do to it. I'm super proud of it. But it does cost us quite a bit of money to make it. So it's, you know, it's about $1,000 more than your economy line stage 2 head, you know, just making a stage 3 head. But if you compare apples to apples with stage 3 heads out there that don't have any coatings on them, it's pretty comparable. It's not too much more. So, yeah, is it a good option? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that guys that have put stage 2 heads on, because I've done it for years, are doing the wrong thing, right? I just have a better product.
That's what I want to go with then with you.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm in Michigan. You know, I haul 160,000. You know, I it's got a 625 turbo that big.
and it doesn't, okay, it doesn't matter who makes it. The weak part of the cylinder head is your space between your intake and exhaust valves, and intake to intake and exhaust to exhaust, and that's the weak point. And you know, if you have too much fuel and too much timing going on in those, it will crack those heads out, no matter who makes it and no matter what they've done to it. So I can't sit here and say our head's not going to be prone to cracking. If the tune is tearing up like your last head, your tune will also tear up this head. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You know,
so you're just saying put a stock tune back in it?
I'm not trying to tell you anything. I just try to be as straightforward as I can. You know, I don't want to deceive anybody and like, oh, you know, it's kind of like with the isotropic super finished wrist pins and rocker shafts. You know, I made a point in the video I made about those to say, you know, you're not going to throw these in your engine and go take your truck to the track, you know, but you are eliminating, parasitic load. Is that going to spell out to a shit ton of fuel savings over 1 million miles? Absolutely. Is it going to give you more horsepower? Yes. Where you see it, you know, you throw it on a dyno, I would be more horsepower from all the isotropic super finishings that we do, but that's not the purpose of it, right? The purpose is get rid of surface tension. So in other words, the parts are going to last longer. They're going to be higher tensile steel, and they're not going to have any parasitic load. Even the rods, you know, they won't retain any oil. Well, how much drag do you have just from the amount of oil that sticks and clings to the rod as it comes around? It's actually pretty substantial. Think about your jets are spraying all that oil up there. They're absolutely soaking the rod. Now, if you have a rod that sheds all that oil over time, that is less vibration, less vibrational load on the entire rotating assembly, and you have less drag on the entire rotating assembly over 1,000,000 miles. That's going to add up to astronomical savings and wear and tear on the engine. And that's what's like the focal point of the which way I'm going. Same thing with the cylinder head. You know, we've already seen massive damage to valve cylinder heads while our crank stayed fully intact, suffered zero damage because of the coatings that we had on the bearings for the crank. I mean, I immediately realized we should be extending this to the cylinder heads as well, because if I had extended it to the cylinder heads a year ago, we would have had zero damage on engines that had put 7-8 gallons of diesel fuel diluted out in a 10-gallon system. You know, you go and pull the dipstick, it's 7 gallons over full. It's that much diesel fuel in it, zero damage to the crank. That's a testimonial to is it worth having these coatings? Abso-fucking-lutely. Is it worth not destroying your engine? You tell me.
Absolutely. So what?
Sorry, go
because
ahead.
the truck just had rods and main last year put in it. What kit do I need from you to get? So I'm going to put new pistons and rings in it too. I got a text from your people there, and they said to get some sort of kit, but they didn't resend which one.
So our kits are still, our cat kits are being delivered in Coleman on Friday. We already know in advance they're not exactly how I wanted them. So it's probably going to be a 2-week delay before we actually put them on the site and release them. Because there's a couple last minute changes I want to make to them. And Highway and Heavy Parts wants to make too. We're kind of in agreement on it. We're in unison on how we want them to be when we release them, and they weren't exactly how we wanted them. And then we're probably still 2 months out from Cummins and probably 3 months out from Detroit and all that. So it's a long process. So in the meantime, we have been doing massive intake of people that are ordering kits from us, and we just bringing them here. It only adds 2 days to the entire process. And we've probably done the same, it's not as good as our kits because they don't have all the cool shit that we added to them and this and that. But if a guy's just looking for the coatings, right, because that's the real upgrade to these kits, we're doing that for people on a massive scale. I'm talking like for 5.7 or 7.3s, 5.9s, John Deere engines, all kinds of ISXs and 60 series Detroits. People are ordering parts from us like crazy, kits from us like crazy. And Bennett Truck Center also has been sending us, I mean, we're doing 10, 15 kits a day here that we're doing up in all our coatings and shipping out because we don't have something to offer everybody. So that's probably what the girls are telling you, is they can get you pretty much any kit you want, and we'll at least get it with all the coatings on it at minimum,
Yeah, so I'm gonna push this truck until our season's over, probably second week of December. So I'm just gonna baby it until then, and hopefully by then you'll have all your ducks in a row, and I can come down and see you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about these kits. My biggest thing was I don't want people to have to go to Cat or to Cummins or Detroit like I always have to do. Interstate McBee's probably the best for not having to buy anything extra. Doesn't make them the best kit necessarily, but they are one of the least hassle-free, and I hate the fact that when I build an engine, I'm having to go to Cat and order 15 different things just to finish off the engine, and I'm buying this major overhaul, out of frame overhaul kit, and I still have to go buy 15 things. I got to go buy the little plugs that go in, where the dipstick goes. I got to go buy, my isolators for the oil pan. I got to go buy the isolators for the valve covers, and I got to buy the stupid little football gaskets for the sides of the engine. It drives me up the wall. I got to go buy the 2 O-rings for the barometric pressure sensor housing, and that shit just drives me nuts. And I wanted to make sure that our kits, we're going to eliminate all that. A lot of the other cool stuff is all the tooling when you go through Cat, or, especially Cat's super cryptic about their tooling. So they'll have like tooling this and tooling that. And they're actually like astringents or aerobics or something, anaerobics or something. We decipher all that and just put it in the fucking kit, right? And then I put a little pamphlet in there that tells you where to use it, how to use it, and what it's for. We're taking a lot of the guesswork out of it. I'm adding in all the torque specs and all that. So how to do your, counter bores and how to do all your torque specs and what everything's supposed, how everything's supposed to be done. And so they're just like the most complete kit ever, on top of having, we went out and we found the best liners. We went out and found the best crowns. We found the best of everything. And then we went and made them even better. So I'm fucking excited about it, man. I really am.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to get them. But yeah, I'll push this thing for another couple months and hopefully come down and see you and get everything I need to make this thing right and last me my career.
Yeah, sounds like a plan, man. I'm super stoked too. We don't have a single product coming out that hasn't had something that's going to just extend the life of it. I fully intend to become the new standard. I think when my entire product line is on the market, people are going to have to adjust to the standard. And I'm already seeing it. I'm already seeing people start to lean towards this. I was just watching a video that Full Tilt put out, and they're like, we ceramic coat, we'll ceramic coat your intake and this and that. And, and it's something that they've always offered, but they've never told anybody they do, now they're making videos saying, we do it too, and I think that's a good thing. I'm not going to, if all these manufacturers start pushing the limits of how long they can make these parts last and how well they can make them perform, I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm not going to go, oh, look at, they're all fucking copying me. Thank God, man. That's what I'm talking about. If all the manufacturers start improving their, if they all have to improve because of what I'm doing, I succeeded, right? I succeeded. You're never going to catch me crying about everybody coming up to our standard. I hope that's what I achieve is it becomes the new normal.
I love it. I'm excited.
But anyway, brother, I got a couple
you
more
answered all my
callers.
questions, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good night,
Thank you.
man.
Have a good evening.
Yep. Good luck with that thing.
Oh, I need it.
Bye. Ultimately, the best guy is the guy that didn't have to come see me at all. On the 640 build. I didn't see the first part of your question there, brother. Changing the world one truck at a time, Grizzly said. Grizzly specialized in the comment section there. He's actually the inventor of that thermostat that we debuted and have been selling the living shit out of. And brilliant guy there. He's always up in the comments helping people out too. Good guy. I'm glad he brought that to me. I'm super proud to be able to show that to everybody and be instrumental in getting it into everybody's hands. Man, we have gotten rid of a lot of those. And it's really nice to get feedback. We get all this feedback from people. We've gotten a lot of feedback on our turbos, really good feedback. We've gotten a shit ton of feedback on those thermostats. That more than any other thing, those thermostats, people call us and be like, holy shit, I should have done this years ago. They are really cool, man. Grizzly is, his actual name's Bryant. Super smart guy, super cool product that he came up with there. And being a partner with him on that has been really cool these past couple weeks. I'm really, really proud to be a part of that. All right, we got one more caller here. We still have a half hour. So after I take this caller, I'll give out the number again. Anybody wants to call in, let's see what he's got. What do you got going on, brother? What can we do for you?
Hello. How you doing?
Good, man. Hit me with it.
So, I got this ISX CM871. Bought it from a guy about a couple months ago. Just started running it. Got like 7,000 miles on the road already. My scanner says they got a 650 tune on it. I don't know how true is that, to be honest with you. I highly doubt it because on the plaque it says 450. I mean, I do have a Borg Warner S400 on it, and it pulls pretty decent. But honestly, I I don't feel comfortable with the tune that it has. You know, like I would like to find, or probably up here in PA, there's not too many options. Somebody who will tune it or change it, or at least I don't know of anyone. What you recommend?
What,
You know,
what engine was it again?
it's an 871 Cummins ISX.
So there is no 650 tune for that. So I would be really, I'd be really suspect about what's on there personally.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very sus on what's actually on there. Yeah, and that's one of my concerns. I mean, I've been running it. Truck's been running fine, but I personally don't want to leave that on there. And like I said, here at least in PA, it's hard to find somebody to tune it. And I mean, I do have Cummins Insight, but I don't have no way. I'm not knowledgeable for that. To try to throw a stock tune on it or whatever, or blah blah, because I don't know none of that. I wouldn't want to play with that. What you recommend I can do until I find someone
I don't know what you could do until you find someone. You got to find someone. There's nothing you can do until you find someone. You have to find someone. Come by here. We'll take care of it. There's lots of
Okay.
I really don't feel like there's lots of good guys out there for this because there's so many that destroy trucks. So, and I have zero recommendations. I really do, and it's not because I'm trying to. I mean, we're not big into. We don't advertise a lot of tuning and stuff like that. We're not really in. We're not looking for people so we can tune their stuff. But I view tuning as more as helping guys out that need it than anything else. You know what I mean?
Okay, and I'm assuming I'd have to set up a date. I'd have to call the office, set up a date.
No, you just come by.
Come by?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll shoot over to San Antonio. I'll take a load out there and just shoot over.
Yeah, we don't. I don't personally tune anything. We let Canadians do all that kind of stuff for us. And I think I think rightfully so. Most of the guys that know that Canadians are the way to go. They're just the best at it.
Yeah.
So, the only way you might get turned down is if the Canadians aren't available. So.
Now let me ask you, how many days I get over there, for example? Because I'm leased on to a tanker company.
About an hour.
About an hour?
Yep.
Okay. What, call the office for the price?
What depends. I mean, you have a deleted truck or no?
Yes. It has no EGR. It's a 2009 Peterbilt 386.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to look at it, man. But it would be more affordable than probably any place else that you could go. The average tune here is around $500. I mean, sometimes they're as little as $250.
Okay.
Sometimes when they got to navigate some silly shit like your EGR missing, it might be $700. I don't know. We try not to mess too much with stuff that's been deleted, but it is what it is.
All right. I mean, I'm personally, I was thinking of taking this truck in general to you now with these auto frame builds that you got. I definitely, that'd be something I'd be looking into doing eventually to this truck. Obviously, when I get that together. But yeah, I'll definitely try to shoot out there at least in the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, man.
Try to take a trip.
Just hit up the office. Give them a heads up.
All right. Awesome.
All right, brother.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Some guy in the comments there said they just did my tune and it is derated 25% with no code. Yeah, we have remote data logging as well. I don't know if by they, do you mean Canadians or you mean here at Hack Nation we did your tune? If we did your tune and it's D-rated, come by and we'll see what's going on. It's most likely not the tune. It could be tune related. A lot of times we tune stuff and well, not a lot of times, but occasionally you tune stuff and it ends up having problems because because you have all kinds of shit deleted off of there that really shouldn't be, sensors that are trying to tell you important shit. So, um, yes, the Canadians. So, it can be a problem. You do these remote tunings with Canadians and they're not there, so you got to communicate all that back to them. But I've never met a Canadian that won't stand behind their tune, and they usually won't charge you anything. At least they never charge us you have something like that where it's derated 25%. They'll come spend the time to figure it out and fix it up for you. And I've never seen them charge somebody for that. So did the machine shop help you out on the ISX block? No, they didn't. They didn't actually. And it is a point of contention with us and them right now. But, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but we've gotten a slew of blocks that had similar problems. We have 2 other blocks that are big time fucked up, but they are standing behind those 2. But I think this ISX is just such a huge job. I think they're scared to. I mean, it's huge. But we also, I can't really say too much about it without throwing them under the bus like crazy. And I don't want to do that. I love Duff and Diesel to death, but we are sending out 40 blocks to a different machine shop. Maybe that might kind of get my point across to anybody that's listening without me having to throw anybody under the bus. Anyway, any fucked up tune fix should be free. Agree 100%. What's your thought on studs over bolts in a C15 head? He's talking about head studs. I am not a believer in head studs, guys. We do have one more caller. We're going to go to that caller here. But I'll tell you guys real quick why I'm not a believer in head studs. And I saw somebody in here, and this kind of correlates. I saw somebody just comment and said they got a stage 4 head from Highway and Heavy Parts. Now, if you guys don't know, a stage 4 head, a stage 2 head has in-canal intake valves. A stage 2 or stage 3 head, stage 2 has in-canal intake valves. Stage 3 has in-canal intake and exhaust. A stage 4 head has all the aforementioned stuff, and then it also has a stainless fire ring cut into it. That's a stage 4 head. So I'm not a believer in a stage 4 head. I've never sold one. And I've talked several people out of getting them, and I'm not bashing you for getting one. You guys, everybody does what they want. So TikTok says my device is overheating. I need to unplug it. So anyway, sorry. So the call-in number, guys, is 573-422-4225. That's 573-422-4225. Long story short, the reason I'm not a believer in fire ringed heads or raised fire ring liners, or in head studs is because whatever external event happens to cause you to have a head gasket failure or a head failure, head gaskets don't fail for the sake of the head gasket. I've never seen that happen. I've talked about this on this show lots of times. And I talked about it with some other really renowned mechanics like Excalibur and, Tim at Excalibur and Charlie at Pure Diesel Repair. Both of them have echoed my sentiment that a head gasket, they've never seen a head gasket fail for the head gasket's sake. It's like when a guy asked me, hey, should I put a cat head gasket? I'm using this aftermarket kit, but should I just go get the cat head gasket? At least use the OEM head gasket. No. Why? Head gaskets don't fail for the sake of the head gasket, right? So they only fail from an external event. You overheated it, lost coolant. You have a tune that is overheating it, so to speak, on the inside. You have some kind of external event always is taking out the head gasket or the cylinder head itself. So whatever external event happens that is going to cause that failure Head studs are not going to keep that failure from happening. Fire ring is not going to keep that failure from happening. So under normal operating conditions, they are not warranted, right? They're not warranted. So you spent a lot more money, and I do mean a lot. You spent a lot more money for a fire ringed head or for head studs. And there's no evidence that I've ever seen to justify that that is going to save a head that was already going to go out, or a head gasket, because of this external event that caused it to have a failure. It's not going to happen. So you're spending money for nothing. That's my thoughts on those. All right, back to the callers, guys. Sorry about the rant. That's a good comment. I really want to answer it, but we're gonna go to the callers here. Hello, you're on the air. What can we do for you?
Hey, I had a truck overhauled twice now. So they overhauled it once, and we ran into problems with the pistons hitting the valves. Long story short, they put injectors in it. They did all this stuff, and the pistons were hitting the valves. When I took it to a different shop, I took it back there 3 or 4 times to the original shop that overhauled it. And then I'm like, okay, we're still having problems. We didn't have 20,000 miles on it. And then we went to a different shop, and they're like, it's cut too low. Like, they cut the deck way too low. And what is your theory on that? Legal advice. Like, do we pursue it, or?
Well, legal.
Because I had a $46,000 bill. I had a $46,000 bill to overhaul. It's a C15 6NZ. $46,000 for them to overhaul, and then they put PDI turbo manifold. I paid $10,000 for all that stuff, and then I took it to a different shop after they just so-called fixed it every time, and we couldn't get it to run. And we took it to a different shop, and they're like, deck's too low. We need to put a reman in it. And that's what they did. So I paid $71,000 for that. So literally got $150,000 into a 1999 truck.
Fuck.
What is your theory?
So hey,
legally, like,
well, let me just soak this in for a minute. First of all, man, you need to be able to prove that the deck was so low that it's causing piston strikes to the valves, right? You would need to get some kind of readout.
No, you could see it. It was hitting the valve. You could see the pistons were hitting the valve.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay. But it doesn't mean it's because the deck's too low. What I'm getting at is it's pretty hard to achieve that, right? I'm not saying it's not possible, but even on decks that, like, sometimes we do deck savers and we do all these little things to save a block, but the odds of, even when a block is below the spec, the odds of the piston be able to strike the valves is actually still pretty small, right? And
okay,
this was a cat engine, wasn't it?
Yep, C15 6NZ.
So a cat engine is going to be really hard to get it below spec, right? It would have had to have been into machine shops multiple times for that to happen. It's kind of what I'm getting at. So, because you can take a lot out of them. So I have almost a hard time believing that that's the case. That's the reason for the piston strikes. It's screaming something else, like a rod problem or something like that, or we had some kind of debris to valve problem that caused piston strikes. We have drop valves. That's so much more likely than what you're describing. But if what you're describing is the case, that you have a block that was machined and then machined below the spec, yeah, you'd need to prove that. You need to go to a machine shop and have have that whole thing looked at. And another guy, Joel Garner here, just said in the comments that timing will cause that, and he's absolutely right. All of these scenarios, timing, rod, debris to valve drop, all these are so much more likely than what you're describing. But your question is basically for legal advice, and I'm really not the guy to be given that. You're calling a mechanic for legal advice, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. Okay. And my thoughts on that, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this because I own a shop, because of the mechanical nature of engines, it is incredibly hard for a end user to win a lawsuit against the shop. It is almost unheard of because you have all these factors, you have all these moving parts, and you have parts, right? So we have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt negligence on the part of the mechanic, right? And so unless you involve another mechanic that is reputable enough and knowledgeable enough to prove negligence, it's almost an impossible endeavor where you just dump a bunch of money into a lawyer, and now your $150,000 engine costs you $180,000 because you spent $40,000 on a fucking lawyer. Does that make sense?
That's what I just said. I'm like, I've been boggling this since March. Like, I have the block, the head, everything sitting here. Like, and I just can't find somebody that I feel comfortable doing anything with. And I'm like, should I just cut my loss, send this block back to Cat and call it good and just move on with life? Or should I do something about it? Like, I don't know where to go with it.
Well, I don't know either. No one can answer that question for what you should do, where you should go with it, or how you should approach it. Only you can answer that question. All I'm trying to tell you, and again, I'm not saying this because I'm a shop owner. I'm just saying it because of the force majeure nature, the possibility of force majeure that, God could have done it in an engine, because you have this rotating assembly. It is incredibly hard to sue a mechanic and win. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you hear guys threaten to sue shops, and guys do sue shops all the time. But you don't hear a lot of guys running around talking about how they sued a shop and won, right? How many times have you, how many people you know that how many people have ever said that to you? Oh yeah, I sued these fuckers.
None.
Never. And it's just
none.
It's just,
and I just want to prove a point. That's all I want to do. Like, but I don't want to cost money out of my pocket more than I already have. If I can, but excellent today. Like, just move on with life and move on.
that would be my advice, because I think you're going to lose. And
Yep.
the only reason I think you're not, because you're not right. It's just because you can't prove negligence, because there's so many other factors. And negligence is probably something even dumber than this block being cut too low. That's my guess. I'm guessing that it's actually something outrageously negligence on the guy doing the installation, because if it went to a machine shop, most machine shops are not going to give you back a fucking block that's too low, right? What are the odds that a machine shop did that versus they had it out of time, they had rod cap, it wasn't torqued, they got some debris in the intake, one of those scenarios, versus this machine shop cut it too low. I mean,
and I sent it to a machine shop to be measured, and they said the rods were too long because they put a 17-1 in it, I believe. I don't remember off the top of my head, instead of 16-1. And the rods were too long is why they were banging on the head, on the valves.
now that could be. Well, what was it originally?
16-1. It was a Cat 6NZ, and they put aftermarket in it to 17-1 to boost whatever the compression or whatever they do. I'm I'm a truck owner. I'm not an engine guy, honestly.
Your 17-to-1s are going to be shorter, pretty sure.
Okay.
The crown's
And in the machine shop I sent it to said that the rods were too long. But I've reached out to another one. I'm from Minnesota, and I reached out to one in Minneapolis, and they're like, we want nothing to do with this. Zero. Like, they know what's coming. They don't want to deal with it.
Right. And now you're getting all these conflicting stories, and you don't even have like something you can nail down. You already lost. I'm telling you right now, if you went to court with me, I'd mop the floor with you. Right.
I agree. That's what I'm wondering. Is it cut your loss and move on or not?
Yeah, you're going to waste money for no reason. I mean, unless these guys are super incompetent,
all right,
and you just get them to shit all over themselves. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky, but if they get a lawyer, you're fucked.
Well, you're getting a C15 or a ISX 15. I'll guarantee you that. I like you, and you're a good guy. I think you're getting my first truck, and I hope we can do more business in the future.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully she runs good for you, brother. But anyway, good luck with that one. I'm sorry that all happened to you. Good luck going forward.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
I'm sure you guys can imagine just not just owning a shop, not just owning a shop, but just being a famous shop. God, I hear too, man, the stories I hear of people just getting fucked. God damn. You know, guys that spend over $100,000 on their engine, and most of it is just from negligence. K2 Diesel Repair up in the chat. I think he's going to be a guest on the show here in a couple of weeks. I know our media guy was trying to set him up to come on the show. That should be a lot of fun. He seems like a pretty cool guy. Anyway, I know they reached out to Charlie and to Tim at Excalibur and to Rob at Highway and Heavy Parts. They're trying to get us a whole roster going again. Anyhow, how do you properly size a turbo for best jaking power? Well, a lot of that has to do with your horsepower rating, my friend. In fact, it has everything to do with your horsepower rating, to be honest with you. You know, the relationship between fucking shops and owner operators is just so broken, you know? And I've always, you know, my name Hack Nation, that came from all the hate that I got. Because when I first got on social media, the reason I blew up is because I was the only mechanic in the world, I swear to God, that was coming out and saying it's not parts failures that are the problem. It's installation error. You know, like out of 100 failures I see, 1% of them is a parts failure and 99 of them are installation errors, you know. And I was, and everybody's, oh, he's a hack, you know. And I really resonated with all the truck stops and all the owner operators and all the farmers, and who I didn't resonate with was all the other shops, right? And it's because all the other shops didn't like me saying that, and so they tried to shit on me, and you know, and they all grouped together, and you know, and they nicknamed me Hack. And so I said, fuck it. And I went down and changed my business name to Hack Nation, because if being a hack is being honest, then I'm going to embrace it. You know, and it's just the truth. And that's how the owner operators and all that, they get fucked, is because some shop will be negligent and fuck their shit up and blame it on the parts, and the parts guys don't do anything for them. And it's really their way of saying, I'm not going to warranty it. It's really what they're saying. Right. So there's a lot of good shops out there. The problem is all shops make mistakes, including mine. You know, I show you guys them all the time, right? It's just the fact that shops don't stand behind their shit. They don't do anything about it when something bad happens. That's the real fucking problem. That's the problem. That's where the relationship is broken, and they throw it back on the parts. Yeah, you know, they throw it back on the parts, and then the parts manufacturers, you know, they're like, this isn't a parts failure, right? And you were a jackass. And then the shops, they will say, oh, yep, the parts manufacturers, they're shit. They don't stand behind their stuff. And next time we'll use OEM, you know, and it's just shit, man. It's just shit. And then I have to hear them all. You know, I have to hear story after story. You know, I hear 20 of them a week. Yeah, I just got raped for $50,000 and the piece of shit won't even run. You know, it's just, god damn. Yeah, I mean, Grizzly's got a good point. You know, part of the problem is it goes back to the owner operators. You know, these days, you know, guys come in, they don't even know how to change their fucking oil. You know, they own a truck. You know, you're gonna get fucked. You're gonna get fucked out there by shops if you don't know how to do nothing. You know, doesn't mean you need to do everything else, but you need to have some knowledge of, you know, this happens. This isn't something that has happened. This happens where guys come in, they own the truck, and I'm like, so what engine you got in there? And they're like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean you're not sure? You know, those guys, in my opinion, they almost deserve to get fucked by shops. You know, I mean, come on, there's got to be a little bit of, I mean, Jesus Christ, boys, come on. You're asking for it. It's hard for me to have sympathy when you can't even tell me what engine you got under there and you've owned the truck for 2 fucking years. You know, I'm just like, god damn. Combine just broke. That's not good. Back to the callers. You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Yeah, hello. I had a question. So I got a X15 on my truck, but I've noticed for a little while now that I've been losing power going uphill, or I guess in general. But the weird thing is I kept my fuel mileage. My fuel mileage hasn't dropped.
Okay.
I looked it up and it said that it could be possible intake issues or turbo, but I'm not too sure. What should I be checking out? It's my first truck. I've only owned the truck.
What engine do we have?
It's an X15.
So it's probably derated. That would be my guess. Do you have any check engine lights at all?
So far, no. I'm gonna do the service on it tomorrow, so I'm gonna have the mechanic connected to the computer, see if by chance it's thrown any codes. But so far, I haven't got any codes on the dash.
Yeah, you need to start there. If you're not throwing any codes, then you have something that is purely mechanical going on. You know, some kind of restriction. You know, when is the last time you changed your air cleaners? You know, you probably need to test the air to air. You're going to have to just walk through the whole thing. There, is this thing deleted or is it not deleted?
No, it's not. No, it's not deleted. It's got the full all the emissions. DPF, DEF, EGR.
Yeah, your DPF's probably somebody just said it in the comments. Your DPF's probably plugging up. That's, you know, if you're having you can't move the air, your emissions is probably starting to get clogged. You know.
Oh, yeah, because the thing about that is I got the filters cleaned out a couple months ago, and I've been running the liquid that Pittsburgh Power has. It's supposed to help your injectors out, but I mean, it could be possible. I guess that even if I'm using that,
anything you're putting in the fuel tank as a additive is not a good idea. For trucks that have DPFs, because it goes straight to the DPF and helps clog it up. I wouldn't be putting shit in my fuel with a DPF engine.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, because supposedly their selling point is it's actually meant for emission trucks that have specially DPF, because I guess when it burns on the injector, it's supposed to clean cleaner. I mean, I don't know if you've looked into that liquid, but I guess that's their selling point.
Yeah, it's their selling point, right? They're selling it to you, and I say bullshit. There's nothing you should be putting in your fuel. If you have a DPF, it helps clog it up. I don't give a fuck what you're putting in it. It's not good.
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. Then I should probably stop using it then, because before that my DPF was clogged. So I got them cleaned and I started using that liquid. But yeah. So I mean, it could be that maybe that's causing it to get clogged faster than what the selling point is on the truck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would go through the, you know, maybe the EGR is all clogged up and it's just really putting the shit to the DPF, and it could be a myriad of things. And in your air cleaners, you're just gonna have to walk down the list. VGT, that's a really good point there too. Actually, I'm surprised that I didn't go there first. Your VGT might not be engaging all the way. In fact, that's actually probably the most likely scenario. Is your VGT is not moving all the way. I love these comment sections.
That's actually the other thing I was gonna. Yeah, that's another thing I was gonna mention is that sometimes when I take off on the higher gears, usually, like the phrase you like to use, it doesn't really come into its own till about 1600 RPM. That's when I really hear the turbo kind of spool.
Yep, your turbos, your actuator's no good, or the turbo's no good. Yep, that's your problem, brother. Get her figured out. All right, we're running low on time.
Yeah.
Okay. Callers, so.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yep, good luck. Somebody said he saw a fire by our shop. Are we all good? That fire was at our shop, brother. It got started here, and it was 50 firefighters and 20 Hack Nation employees going balls to the wall to keep from losing everything. And it took us quite a bit of effort, but we got her under control. We were moving equipment, so it was crazy. I can't believe nobody got ran over. Well, it was unreal. The fire marshal, when he came here, he told me after it was all over, he said, this is the first fire I've ever been to where I didn't evacuate everybody. He said, I've evacuated all the pedestrians from every fire we've ever had. And he said, so this one's going to kind of go in the record books. He said, I realized as soon as I got here, if I evacuated you guys, we were going to lose everything. And he's like, you guys did badass. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. I just thought it was kind of funny. And I was like, well, I don't think I would have let you evacuate me. He's like, oh, I would have in handcuffs. I was like, okay. He's like, you'd be surprised how many times I have to put guys in handcuffs to evacuate them. They just refuse to leave. He's like, but I realized if I made you guys leave that we were going to lose everything. But yeah, I have insurance. I mean, we could have just let it burn, but fuck that. I mean, I don't want insurance. I want everything I built, and I employ a lot of people. The insurance wouldn't have done anything for all the people I employ. That would have been so shitty, That would have actually been the shittiest thing. Insurance would have covered everything. And I have a special policy that actually covers all the guys' tools and all that too. So if I lost everything, they would get compensated for everything they have as well. I purposely put a policy in place for that, but I mean, that's not going to take care of them. So fuck that. I would much rather have the place, I mean, who wants to start over anyway? What's insurance money? Blow it at Vegas or something? Then I have nothing. I mean, come on. Yep. Anyway, guys, we're at the top of the second hour here. So the show's coming to an end. I have 3 callers. Guys, hang on. I'll get to you. I'm not going to take any more callers. Please don't call in. And we're going to get to them here. I've asked a few times, thoughts on Macs and Mac engines. I got one with 1.1 million. Did one with 500,000. Well, you're kind of answering your own question. Macs are notoriously reliable. I don't like them personally. They're kind of like a PACCAR in the realm of they're kind of lackluster. Not very powerful engines. The other reason I don't like them, they also mirror PACCAR in this is, they're very specialized. Takes a specialized shop. They're going to be more expensive. It's hard to find people that'll work on them. But the PACCAR shares what that Mac does, and they'll go $1 million, $1.3 million. The problem is once they're done doing that, they're very unaffordable to have worked on, and they're very hard to find people that will. They're not a very user-friendly platform once you do have a problem. So that's the only drawback of them. Yeah, and they're not powerful engines, so to speak, as far as what's available out there. But for what guys use them for mainly, down south and moving a lot of, granite and sand and whatever else. And they really come into their own and they do a really good job, So I'm not bashing them, but I wouldn't want to own one, I wouldn't want to own one. Anyway, let's get through these callers so we can all go home and call her a night. You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Yes, I've got a BXS, and I had Karen go out in the fuel pump auxiliary drive, and it took out just about every gear. I don't know if the crank survived or not. And I'm trying to decide, I'm actually trying to decide whether I should just buy a 640 build from you or have you rebuild, see if you would rebuild my BXS.
Well, I mean, I can tell you which one's more affordable, right? Obviously, it's always going to be more affordable to rebuild what you have. And the reason is, guys, you got to understand, I answer this question for guys daily. You guys, for guys that are going to call me and, should I rebuild what I have or should I just buy something from you? The convenience of buying something from me in 2 months from now or 6 weeks from now will be I can instantly get you an engine, right? Because we're maneuvering to put ourselves in that position. But right now, you're not really even saving yourself a bunch of time, right? So, what would be the benefit of bringing your engine? Well, when people buy an engine from us, there's this expectation that everything's going to be new. And so that's what we do. I don't fuck people, right? So everything's new. The crank, from the crank to the cam to the flywheel to the dampener, and we sell them complete. They got everything on them: starter, alternator, the whole 9 yards. Valve trains all been redone. Everything's brand new. They get expensive, man. They get expensive. Think about you might save 20, 25, 28,000 if you bring me your engine versus buying one from me. And I have no problem with that, right? I have no problem with that. I don't want to get away from doing guys' engines. I just want to get away from doing in frames. I want all the room back, and I want to produce engines ahead of myself instead of always telling everybody it's 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 weeks or however long to get you an engine, right? So we're super open to. We still have people bringing us engines like crazy. They're just not in the truck, or if they're in the truck, we're pulling them out, right? It's it's already known in advance. We're going to pull this out of the truck and do it like that. So, I highly recommend redoing your own engine. Not that I don't want to sell you an engine, right? I'd rather sell everybody an engine, but it's just not realistic, So, I'm not going to sit here and try and talk you into buying an engine when you have a good engine sitting there, so you broke some gears. So what? I can probably source all those gears used and we'll refurbish them. We'll knock all the bushings out and redo them, and big deal. You save $3,000 right there, going with some used stuff that's, because those gears don't really wear out. The bushings wear out, right? So who cares? We do new bushings and this and that. And yeah, I mean, you're probably talking astronomically, not astronomically, but you're talking affordability wise. It's, so in the future, in the very near future, guys will buy engines from me just to be able to eliminate their downtime. But we're always going to be able to offer everybody, it's a much more affordable option. Just bring us your engine, but a lot of guys will save more money by buying an engine because they have some, dedicated run and they're making a lot of money, and that, they're looking, okay, it takes 3 weeks. I could make all that money back in 3 weeks and have a brand new engine. So you got to weigh all that out, really, and not a lot of guys, if you got a guy that's cash poor or something like that, he may have to wait the 3 weeks so he can save the money. And, we want to be flexible for everybody. But to answer your question, only you can answer that question, but we certainly have that option.
Well, I do know the deck, or rephrase, the engine block needs decked. We had the head off. I replaced the head. And when we had it off the first time, how do you put that? The deck isn't true. And I couldn't get it to seal right. I wound up having to jerry rig it. I got it to seal. But because at the time I couldn't afford to, pull the motor and send it off, rebuild it again. The shop that originally rebuilt it, I don't know why, but they didn't machine the block. They should have pulled it out, and they didn't. But how hard is it, or how different would it be take my engine and make it to a 700 horse. 'Cause I know you got the 640s that you're doing, and I'm wanting to go up to about 700.
So our 640 actually dynos out at around 680. I will continue to always advertise it as a 640 because they're always going to vary some from engine to engine. The fact of the matter is our timing on those is already at the max that I'm willing to take an engine before we start to get some burn over into the exhaust stroke. So I wouldn't build you an engine more than that. You have to go somewhere else. Because I want the engine to last you a long fucking time. I care more about that than I do about you passing one other jackass that has his shit turned up to 800. You know what I mean? Fuck him. Let him do that. You know, and would I do it for you? I mean, there's always a well, sure, if I'll do it for you if we both agree I'm not going to warranty it, but that always goes over like a warm turd, right? I'd just rather not. I'd just rather not. You know, we put a lot of research into the builds that we do. Like somebody just asked me how much for a 646 NZ. We don't do a 646 NZ, right? We do a 600 6NZ. Will they dyno out more than 600? You know, yes, they will, but I'm not advertising them as that, right? Because that we have our 6NZs. You know what we do. Here's what we do with our 6NZ. I'll just give you an example. Our 6NZs that we say we're 600, we put a 575 heavy haul tune on there. That is a cat tune, right? It is a stock cat tune. It's the heaviest, the highest horsepower tune they have for the 6NZ. And then we focus on using performance parts to get it the rest of the way. Okay. And if it's not hitting where we want it, we may lay a little bit more fuel on it, but we're talking very small numbers here. And we're pushing 600 plus, right? And because we're not willing to take them to the point where we start to have all this stress back on the liners and on the rods. You know, a lot of people don't know that most of the stress on the rod is when the rod's pulling, not when it's pushing. That's when it's really, really stressing out the rod because that's the small part of the metal. It's not on the combustion stroke. It is on the exhaust stroke when it's pulling down. That's when it's getting stressed out the most. Well, and you're putting combustion into the exhaust stroke, you are fucking it up, right? You're fucking up the liners. You're stressing out the rods. The pistons are getting havoc wreaked on them, and you're cracking out your cylinder head. Why, man? Why? And here's the other thing. I don't want to build an engine that you can't throw anybody in and let them drive it. In my opinion, if you have to change the way that you drive, then you built a shitty engine. That's my opinion. If a guy's got to drive it a certain way or he fucks it up, you built a shitty engine.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. On your 640s, you said you're using, well, I guess you didn't tell me what your model platform, I guess, are you using for your 640s?
It's BXS, NXS, MXS, any of those three. We do them on the SDP too, but I hate it. I'd rather not.
The only reason I ask is because I was hoping when I redo my engine, I'm trying to get a 90s model ECU. Currently, my BXS, this isn't going to sound right to you, but it's running on a 2WS ECU.
No, that sounds right to me. Depends on how it's configured internally. That's really not that big of a deal. The problem is your 2WS guys will go throw the 600 tune on there from the DS engine, and that fucks them up. That is not healthy. Those don't last very long. So if you have if whoever set that up for you said, oh yeah, it's 600 horsepower, I can kind of already guarantee you that you're on the road to coming to see someone like me no matter what. And that would be related. That would be related entirely to the tune. You know, that BXS ECM could have stayed on there just fine if they knew what they were doing. You know, if you buy an engine from me, let's say it's a BXS, I'm going to build the horsepower around the configuration that exists. Of course, I don't need to throw some 20 or 6-year earlier ECM on there to make it work right. And you may have been doing that for e-log reasons or something like that. I don't know. It's none of my business, but it wasn't necessary for you to achieve the DA cert that you were trying to achieve is what I'm really getting at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure because I didn't own it at that point in time. I kind of got it that way. And when I first got the truck, it ran great. And then the ECM took a shit on me. Had to put a replacement on it. And when I went off of the code that was in the ECM, the new ECM, it wouldn't run the motor correctly. So I had to repin the harness and to get the injectors to all fire correctly.
Yep. That's a BXS thing there. But anyhow, man, yeah, if you want to call the office, we can kind of work up. We don't do anything for anybody without getting them a quote. We want to make sure everybody knows exactly what they're getting into. So you want to call the shop tomorrow, man, we can at least give you a quote and kind of give you some options. But we got 3 more callers and we're 10 minutes past the hour. I gotta run through these guys. So
all right, appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
I do want to address one comment. One guy was, saying, I suppose that when a liner drops because you're putting so much suction on the liner is when it drops. But that's not actually what makes them drop. It's torsional fatigue. It's vibrational stress. And when you're at the bottom of your stroke, that is where the most vibration is going to happen in the flex. In your liner, if you could see it, while it's running, your liner is like going like this, and it is just getting the shit kicked out of it. It's why the ISXs fail so fast, and the whole liner is moving in and out like this. It's also why you end up with cavitational erosion, because the liner is flexing in and out like this, like a heartbeat, and it causes microscopic bubbles under massive pressure from that load of expansion and contraction. To when those bubbles blow up, they actually knock holes in the metal and it starts to erode it, right? So that same motion that causes cavitational erosion is also what causes the liners to move and to walk and start to drop. And if you're putting combustion into the exhaust stroke when you're down here in the bottom, causing the most vibrational torsion, problems that you can, it's going to rapidly accelerate how fast that liner is going to walk around and drop. That makes sense. So that's the reason that, I'm so big about stopping and all that, because I want engines to last. I mean, who the fuck wants to spend, like some of our engines that, we have builds that go as high as 74,000, right? I'm really proud of those builds and people buy them from me. How fucked up if it only went 200,000 miles? It's so dumb, right? Why would I want to build something like that? It would make it outside of my warranty, but who gives a shit if it makes it outside of my warranty? I want the guy to come back, 7, 8, 9, $1 million and be like, man, I want you to do it again because, I just got 10 years out of this thing, right? And I was, one of the first to the top every time. So that's my idea of a good build, right? So anyway, we got these last callers. Let's take them. We got 2 more. You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is David here. So I've been listening to your show and watching your videos already a couple of times, and so I had a situation where I went and had my system flushed. I drained out all my coolant because I was running green coolant, and I put one of those fleet guard deals and filled it up with water, ran it, got it hot, and my plan was to flush it, put some of the red coolant, and so long story short, my water pump took a shit and just pissed all the water out on my way home, and it overheated it went up to about 200, 220, and my oil temperature went up to about 230, 220, 230.
None of those
But
none of those are engine damaging temperatures, but I'm with you.
yeah, so all my coolant just went out that freeze plug or whatever it is on the water pump, and I made it home. And until I realized, I popped the hood and I was like, what's going on with this thing? I popped the hood and I turned the truck off and I realized I had a little bit of fluid coming down the block between the head and between the head and block.
So, quick question: how much coolant did you have to add?
So when I went to drain it, there was only about maybe 3 gallons in it.
Your head's no good. You ruined the head.
Yeah, I dumped out all the coolant through the water pump. Unfortunately, whatever that additive that I added that cleaned it, it just the water pump had already warned me. I had seen it before, and that was my fault for not changing it. But
yep.
It stopped. It just leaked a little bit, and I noticed it was wet, and I never saw it again, so I didn't worry about it. And I went to do this, and I was like, winter's coming around. I want to make sure that I've got some good coolant in there. The good.
I'm with you,
stuff,
brother.
so.
But I'm with you. But that thing got way hotter than 220. It just stopped reading when there was no coolant left. That head's wasted.
Yeah, for some reason my sensor wasn't. It didn't warn me. Check engine light didn't come on or anything.
They stopped reading when there's no coolant to read. They're just reading air. That's why. Yeah,
it's just a shitty situation. I mean, it's my first truck. I'm a owner operator, and it's just I thought I was doing myself a good service there, but apparently I fucked something up. But I kind of had
doing yourself a good service. You already said that there was signs. You just. One guy said in the comments, I've never seen a radiator flush, no matter what brand it is, not take out the water pump. They always take out the water pump. But we have to flush radiator systems here all the fucking time. Like, we are doing it all the fucking time. And I have never had a radiator flush of any brand take out a water pump. You already had signs of it, but none of that matters. I'm not trying to point fingers at you or give you any shit. I'm here to help you solve problems as far as what you do next. And yes, Restore is what he's talking about. Fleet Guard makes Restore. I use Restore exclusively. No, I don't have any deal with
that Restore. Yeah.
Restore kicks ass. I use it all the time. Restore did not take out your water pump, right? I can't even.
Yeah, no, for sure. I understand that.
But
it's just a shitty situation for me.
Yeah, it is. But you're stuck with the answer is you have to change the head. There's nothing for it. You got to get a head and head gasket and throw it on there, and that truck will be operable again. What else can I do for you, brother?
Do you think I will have to do a full end frame?
No.
Or maybe just get by with the head and gasket?
You need a head and head gasket. And a water pump. Let's not forget that.
And a water pump for sure. Yeah. Do you think I should go ahead and just change the oil cooler as well while I'm at it?
I mean,
my truck has 800,000 or so.
That's a question I can't answer, man, because I don't know where you're at in life. Your old lady might have left you yesterday, and you only have 2 cents left. She took everything. I don't fucking know, right? So, I try not to answer questions like that. If it doesn't sound like you're having an oil cooler problem, right? So, should you change your oil cooler? Sure, why not? But it's no skin off my back to tell you to change it, right? So I try not to be that guy that, I'm certainly not the mechanic that's like, well, let's change everything while we're here. So, I mean, if you're going to change that, why don't you change your dampener too? And how about your turbo and manifold? Where are you going to stop?
Yeah, for sure.
Where are you going to stop? Where are you going to stop? Right. So
yeah, no, definitely. I understand that.
The answer to your question is you need to do a water pump, a cylinder head, and a head gasket. What else should you do? Only you can answer that.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to your son about it or your shop, and then they recommended me to talk to your son over there, and Well,
That's
I probably
because we're trying to phase out doing anything that's not an out of frame, and so they were
yeah.
trying to get. I mean, my sons do a lot of stuff like that. I mean, all the time, and so a lot of guys that work here go over there on the weekends and help them button all kinds of stuff up. They pay my guys pretty good to go over there on weekends and on Sundays and stuff to button stuff up. So they do quite a few engines over there. My boys grew up in the shop building engines. I think Jacob was cutting counterbores for me when he was only 12 years old. They certainly know what they're doing. But yeah, the girls have been referring a lot of people to them, just, not that they need more work necessarily, but just to help give people an option, did not have to, certainly don't need an out of frame. So that's why we would have pointed you there. But anyway, brother, I got one more caller and we're getting
Okay.
pretty late. So
one more quick question. So can I pick up one of those heads that you have on the HHP website at your shop? Because I'm not too far from you.
no, I don't have any here.
Do you have those in stock, or do we have
No, I could
to
get
order
one
those
here. I
online?
could get one here for you, but if you wanted us to get one here for you or to match shop for you, we could certainly facilitate that. You just have to call the office tomorrow. No big deal.
Okay,
All right,
sounds
brother.
good. Thank you.
Have a good night. It's guys always want me to tell, and you got to imagine we always doing anywhere between 30 and 40 engines in the shop, and that's like the number one question is what else should I do? I call them and like, okay, here's all the problems, here's all the things we have to do to give you back a good engine. Is like, what else should I do? Like, I mean, you're kind of asking the wrong guy. I own a shop. Everything, you should do everything. I mean, what do you tell a guy? What? Yeah, I already told you. Here's what we have to do to give you back a good engine. Should you also do everything else? And you get caught in an integrity fandango there where you're, what do you tell them? So I don't know. I already told you. Here's what we should do. If you want to do anything else, just you tell me. But anyway, last caller. Let's go ahead and take him and see where we're at. You're on the air, brother. What can we do for you?
Hi, work on a farm and we have a 03 Peterbilt 379 with a 6MZ in it and automatic tranny, and the pyros get extremely hot, up to about 1,000, 1,050 or warmer.
Okay,
is there anything we can do to...
Hey, hang on. That's not hot.
That's not for 6MZ?
No. I mean, it's
okay.
Hotter than... I mean, it's hot, but you're not in any kind of danger. If you were to call Cat, let's just put it into perspective. You call Cat and say, hey, I got a 6MZ, and this thing's getting up to 1,200 degrees pretty regular. They may ask you, are you going over that? And you're like, no, but I do get up to 1,200 degrees. You know what they're going to tell you? It's fine. That's what they're going to tell you. Now, I don't like 1,200 degrees on a turbo personally. And I know for a fact that if you hang an engine at 1,200 degrees and you sustain it for a while, you are in some serious danger of harming some things, cracking out your head and stuff like that. But Cat will tell you you're not, right? So, if you're not hanging there, let's say you're in a hard pole and you're hanging there for, a couple minutes, 1,200 degrees don't hurt it either, brother. So 1,000's really not hurting it.
Okay. What is that usually before or after turbo for their pyros reading?
After turbo.
After turbo? Okay, that's where ours is at.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're, so here's the litmus really is, do you have enough history with this truck where, you've been running it and it's always been 800, 900, and now it's this new thing where it's going up to 1,000, then sure, I would say maybe you need to look at doing air filters. You need to see if maybe you have a boost leak, maybe take the boots off and see if you have some fins that are getting ate up or something like that. But that would be how I would determine that is all of a sudden we're seeing this 1,000 degrees and we weren't before. But if it's always done it, I mean, keep trucking if it's not having problems.
Yeah, we never had a pyro on it before, so we never knew what it got to.
Yeah, but 1,000 just, I mean, 900 is kind of more desirable, you know, really,
Right.
on a 6NZ, but getting up to 1,000 is not something that you need to worry about.
I just figured, you know, Cat, I mean, our C15 is obviously twin turbo, but they don't hardly ever get to 800. So
Yeah.
we just thought that 900,000 was getting a little warm.
Yeah, but it's not a twin turbo. So
Right.
it's going to be hotter.
Okay.
Yeah, the comment section.
All I needed to hear.
Comment section says straight pipe it, check the air filters. I mean, they're all right, but
It's already straight piped.
I just don't think you have a problem. One guy says take the pyro back out. maybe that's what you need to do.
One of our mechanics said cut some fuel.
Nah, I think you just need to leave it alone and use it.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you much.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
All right, that's the last caller there, guys. I do appreciate everybody in the comment sections. Really good time. Really good show. This has been, for how tired I was, I really didn't want to do this show. I was just dead on my feet. We literally spent 3 or 4 hours just going, adrenaline like crazy. The wind kept shifting. We had a massive fire here, if you didn't know. The wind kept shifting, and everybody be like, whoo, we got it, we're okay. And the wind would shift. It hasn't rained here in 3 months, and it's pasture all around us. It's just intense fire. Holy shit. And the wind would shift, and all of a sudden it's a big crisis again. And the firefighters pointed out, they're like, yeah, this fire just made an entire loop around the entire property because of the wind just kept taking it, and it was like new fire to put out literally every couple minutes. And at one point we had fire debris going all the way up on the other side of our property, and it caught a fire, 2 different fires underneath trucks, and everybody's running over there. And there's like 20 people over there with shovels throwing dirt at fire. And there's fire. There was 7 or 8. There might have been 9 fire trucks. And I can't believe nobody got ran over. Oh man, it was just a fucking shit show. Holy cow. But we got it. We got the fire out. Almost 0 property damage, including other people's equipment that was here. One old water truck that was here when I moved here. It looks like it'd been here for 20 years before I came here. The tires caught on fire on that thing, but that was the only serious thing. So pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm beat. Adrenaline rush numerous times, and of course I had smoke inhalation next level. At some point there, I went inside and started handing out gas masks. Fortunately, we do so much painting here and coating that there was kind of enough gas masks to go around. And about 30 minutes into it, we evacuated all the women and children. And God, it just kept getting more and more intense. And anyway, guys, you have a good night. I appreciate everybody in the comments. Good show. Love you guys all for sure. Really, if it wasn't for the comment section and the callers, and if it was just a true podcast and I was just coming on here running my fucking mouth, I probably would have quit doing it quite some time ago. But the way we have this formatted is great. And again, guys, this is every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Central Time, Hack Nation Live. We have guests lined up for every show for the next couple of months. I want to hit guests really hard and just kind of break up the monotony of my goofy ass on here by myself. Although I do have a lot of fun doing the shows alone. I really do, because of the comments and all that. You guys make the show, because I'm never doing it alone. That's kind of the point. I'm never doing it alone. Yeah, I might as well say 7. That's what my wife always says. She's like, 7, it's 7 to 10. I mean, just tell the truth. I'm like, God damn it. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, literally, guys, I was out there and there was firefighters still putting shovelfuls of dirt and spraying water around. And I was like, okay, I was talking to the fire marshal. He's like, I think we got it completely under control. I'm like, well, I got to walk upstairs and start a show. So, I mean, it's still smoldering when I walked up here. It's fucking crazy. But anyway, all right, guys, you have a good night. Appreciate y'all. I'll see you next week. We will have a guest. I'm not sure who my nephew Titus lined up first, but we kind of got a whole bunch of people and we're searching for more. I think he's got a couple leads on some other people. But I will see you guys next week. Love you long time. Thanks for coming. Keep up with us